It's Thursday, the 11th of August, and welcome to From the South. In Latin America, Ecuador and Colombia are in the process of creating a commission that will target migrant traffickers. Ecuador's Foreign Minister, Guillaume Long, met with his Colombian counterpart, Maria Angela Hologuin, this week to discuss the issue, which affects both nations. The ministers said that they will not be focusing on migrants, only those who prey on them.
It has been 1 year since authorities in central Mexican state of Morelos adopted anti-gender violence measures known as the Gender Alert to investigate and prevent the high rate of violent murders of women. Although rights defenders struggled to get the measure approved, they say 1 year on, they feel deceived.
The Gender Violence Alert is the last resource that we women have to procure justice. For us, it is an important, viable, and functional instrument. But what is lacking is the willingness of official institutions to apply this gender violence alert.
The Morelos state authorities reluctantly approved the measure in August of 2015 with a budget of more than $500,000 to capacitate investigators, police, and judges in adopting a gender perspective when dealing with potential cases of femicides. However, activists say the state's discourse does not match their actions.
When you go to a government agency, the reality of having not received training stigmatizes and re-victimizes you.
Since the Gender Alert was applied, rights defenders have documented 86 cases of femicides in Morelos. In 2016 alone, 59 cases have been documented, with the percentage above the previous 2 years. Rights defenders fear the growing trend will not change.
It is very likely that this year will be the most violent in terms of femicides in the state of Morelos since 2012, when we had 92 cases.
Activists say the case in Morelos is not isolated. Femicide rates continue in many parts of Mexico, including the states where the Gender Alert has been adopted. Clayton teleSur's, Mexico City.
On Wednesday, Argentina's government disbursed some $4.5 million to 2 gas providers, which represents interim financial assistance to cover expenses and investments associated with the normal operation of the provision of the public service of natural gas distribution. The move is being heavily criticized, considering Macri's price hikes and the rise in inflation. Workers in Argentina have been protesting for months over the government's economic policies.
This Tuesday, the Honduran National Bar Association celebrated its 100 years. At the same time, 3 lawyers were murdered. Since 2010, more than 100 lawyers have been killed in Honduras. Lawyers work in very difficult conditions and also have to face violence and impunity.
Lawyers have 800 cases per month and they can't manage everything. So why they are killing us, I think, has to do with the intolerance that is reflected in the culture of this country.
Kevin Ferreira, Freddy Mendoza, and Carlos Alberto Mejia Lopez were violently assassinated, and their murders will most likely stay unpunished. According to the country's Human Rights Commissioner, 94% of cases are not investigated. Last year, Congress approved the Lawyers and Journalists Protection Law that will help law enforcement respond quickly in the case of threats and will help improve investigations. However, it still hasn't been applied.
According to estimates from the Finance Secretary for the Center of Protection of Journalists and Lawyers, a budget of 10 million lempiras, less than $500,000, international cooperation will give 5 million lempiras, and the government just has to put 4 million lempiras. And because they haven't, this institution isn't working, and it's a shame that there are still journalists being murdered as lawyers and human rights defenders.
The Honduran Lawyers Bar Association recognized Honduran President Juan Orlando Hernandez for his role as a lawyer, even though he has made nothing to approve the law that will help his colleagues. Lawyers have received little support from the government and their representatives. Nonetheless, they have to continue doing their job. Gerardo Torres, teleSur, Honduras.
4 policemen were injured and dozens of protesters arrested after a miners' strike turned violent on Wednesday in Cochabamba, Bolivia. In La Paz, local media reported that 35 policemen were taken hostage, but were later exchanged for 90 protesters being detained by the police. Miners had embarked on indefinite protest action demanding labour rights and government transparency, among others. More than 4 years after Ecuador offered Swedish authorities the opportunity to interview Julian Assange in the nation's London embassy, a deal appears to have been struck. Ecuador's Attorney General has responded positively to a request from the Swedish government to interview the WikiLeaks founder in the building. Russian President Vladimir Putin says that Ukraine was using terrorist tactics instead of trying to work towards peace in the region. This following an announcement from Russia's security agency that they had thwarted Ukrainian attacks in Crimea. Ukraine has dismissed the claims. 2 Turkish military attachés, both working at the Turkish embassy in Greece, are missing after being called back to Ankara. The request was part of investigations into the failed military coup attempt. According to US officials, a Turkish military officer on a US-based assignment for NATO is also seeking asylum there after being recalled by the government. During a rally in Florida on Wednesday, Republican Donald Trump described President Barack Obama as the founder of the Islamic State group. Trump also stated his Democratic rival Hillary Clinton was the co-founder of the militant group. Trump has often accused the Obama administration of allowing the militants to flourish. Co-founder of the Huffington Post, Arianna Huffington, has announced she will leave the liberal news website. She will be stepping down as editor-in-chief to run a new venture, Thrive Global. Canadian police killed a man after the police said that they had identified a suspect after receiving credible information of a potential terrorist threat. A raid was conducted on the home of Aaron Driver on Wednesday, who they say was planning an attack within 72 hours.
The municipality of Jerusalem has drawn up a plan for the construction of 2,200 new Israeli settler units in the occupied West Bank. According to Walla Hebron news site, the project, dubbed Olive Trees District, covers an area of some 50 acres in Gillow neighborhood southwest of East Jerusalem. Palestinian sources confirmed most of the land allocated for the project is under Palestinian private ownership, while 30% belongs to Palestinians living abroad.
The establishment of settlements violates the international law, which states that any occupying power is not allowed to make any permanent changes at the territory it occupied. According to the international law, it's also prohibited for the occupying state to transfer its own citizens to the territory it occupied. Israel's continuation in expanding the building settlements is violating the international community well to stop such actions.
The project contractors recently held a meeting with Israeli officials, during which they called for immediate execution for the Israeli plan. On Tuesday, the Palestinian Foreign Ministry condemned the project, saying that Tel Aviv continues to disrespect the international laws. The ministry also called on the international community to hold Israel completely responsible for Israel's behavior, which obviously obstructs the two-state solution. Last week, Israel approved plans for the construction of 770 out of 1,200 settlement units near the Palestinian town of Beit Jala. It also opened build contract tenders for the construction of 323 units in the illegal settlements of Gilo, Neve Yaakov, Bigat Zaev, and Har Homa. Tel Aviv has defied calls to stop the settlement expansions in the occupied Palestinian territories. Over 500,000 Israelis live in more than 230 illegal settlements built since Israel's annexation of the West Bank and East Jerusalem during the 1967 war. Nuharazin Telesu TV, Gaza.
A Cuban boy who is a superfan of Fidel Castro held an exhibition and party on his home on Wednesday in the village of San Antonio de los Baños. Attendees also cut a cake and sang happy birthday to Castro. The Cuban leader will celebrate his 90th birthday on Saturday. More on these and other stories on our website telesurtv.net/English.